to talk with someone who's been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIVE.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the program, Today's Issues, on this Monday, November the 13th, 2023. Name of the program is Today's Issues, and I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Fred Jackson.
Good morning, Tim.
We thank everybody for listening. If they want to join us on what you affectionately call that there internet, Ed, what do they need to do?
Well, you have three options. You can go to either Facebook or YouTube and search for Today's Issues. I think on YouTube it's Today's Issues Live. Or you can go to our own streaming service, streaming.afa.net, streaming.afa.net. On any of those three options, you can watch the live video stream of this program.
All right. Well, hope everybody had a nice weekend. Fred, what'd you get accomplished?
What did I get accomplished this weekend? Well, we did a little bit of shopping.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Christmas shopping?
We're trying to get that out of the way early.
And, you know, it's not really early for Christmas shopping, according to a growing number of people who've already got their trees up and all kinds of things.
My wife, Allison, my wife and I, we've already got all our shopping done for all our grandkids, and everything's ready to go.
Good for you guys.
You and Allison?
Oh,
and Allison have already got the Christmas shopping done.
Is it my look? What's giving me away?
All right, either
I had little or
Allison,
nothing to do with any of that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I was part of the support system.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
You cheered her on. You got home from work and she's got the shopping done. You said, "Atta girl."
All right, so you got all you got most of your shopping done?
A bit of mixture, buying from the brick and mortar stores.
Right.
But Amazon, it's just there, and it is so convenient.
Like a drug.
And I tell you what, the FedEx and the UPS trucks and the mail trucks, they're speeding up and down our street. I'm amazed at the change in the economy just in the last, I guess, 5-10 years or so, but delivering boxes all the time. And I know that hurts a lot of local businesses.
Yeah.
It's tough, but it's just so convenient. Of course, other big stores you can order online too.
Right.
But Amazon is, I guess, the grandpa of it all.
Yeah, we do a mix too, like y'all. We buy some online, buy some from the stores.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know Bed Bath & Beyond's going out of business?
I had heard that, I think, sometime.
At least I know they're closing a bunch of stuff.
Well, that breaks my heart. I'm just going to tell you, I use a lot of product
from Beyond.
Your lotion.
I use a lot of. Listen, tongue in cheek. I still buy Irish Spring bars of soap, the way God intended.
Wow.
These people with their body wash and their this and their that. I use shampoo and bars of soap.
It's like God intended.
Like God intended. It was good enough for the apostles when they traveled.
Irish Spring.
I use a good bar of Irish Spring.
Look that up. I think I know the store closed here locally where we live.
I think you're right. I think
Bed Bath & Beyond. Yeah. So it must. I don't know, bad management or if they, just were getting hurt by the online sales. But you would think they would be themselves about barn.
There's all kinds of
reasons.
No, I'm saying there's all kinds of online places where the ladies can shop. Believe me, I know, and get their, their health and beauty products.
Careful. Right there, Ed.
Yes. Health and beauty products.
You're walking on the ledge.
Dancing. I've danced on the ledge.
Fred and I aren't with you.
Yeah. But, speaking of the brick and mortar stores, Dollar General. Sometimes I like to take back roads when I go for a drive, and it amazes me.
Yeah.
Brand new Dollar General stores in the middle of the woods somewhere. And they have the big signs out front, grand opening.
I just walked down the hall. They put one up by our popcorn machine. One down there by our popcorn machine right here in the studio just went up over the weekend.
Yeah.
At Dollar General. No, you're right.
They are breaking the mold. They are opening stores like crazy, brick and mortar stores. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Well, the wise business decision that they've made, I think, is if you have to have something on the way home, you stop at Dollar General. You can't wait even till tomorrow,
right,
for Amazon to deliver.
Yeah,
you've got to have.
If you don't want to go fight the big box store,
exactly,
parking and everything like that.
Very smart business model.
Yeah, and they are everywhere.
Yeah,
that's why I joke around with our Trivia Friday callers. What Tim typically asks when they find out they're from Tennessee, the town in Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee. Where do you live in Tennessee? I live in Jackson, Tennessee, and I frequently, not every Friday, but I'll frequently say, "You mean down by that Dollar General?" Everybody says, "Yeah, there's a Dollar General nearby."
Everybody lives by
it's
Dollar
incredible.
General. All right, Fred, what's story number one?
Well, big shocking story, I guess, in the political world is that South Carolina Senator Tim Scott abruptly ended his campaign. He pulled out of the Republican presidential candidate race last night, and he chose kind of a Sunday Night in America with Trey Gowdy on Fox News. He chose that as the venue to make the big announcement. Cut number one.
One of the things I would recommend to every single American, I know it's not possible, by the way, if you ever want to love your country more, run for president. Traveling this country, meeting people has been one of the most fantastic experiences of my entire life. I love America more today than I did on May 22nd. But when I go back to Iowa, it will not be as a presidential candidate. I am suspending my campaign. I think the voters who are the most remarkable people on the planet have been really clear that they're telling me, not now, Tim. I don't think they're saying, Trey, no, but I do think they're saying not now. And so I'm going to respect the voters, and I'm going to hold on and keep working really hard and look forward to another opportunity.
That's Senator Tim Scott making the announcement. He's pulling out of the campaign.
Well, now, he never did really. I like him a lot. He's been on this program before.
Mm-hmm.
He strong Christian conservative guy.
Yes,
but he never. What was he polling? Probably 3%.
Yeah, it never got out of the tiny single digits.
Right.
Yeah.
So
he also declined to endorse another candidate at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Just said the best way for me to be helpful is to not weigh in. So I'm like you. I really like him. He's passionate about Jesus. He basically testified in the first debates that he's been in at times, talking about how God and Jesus have changed his life. He's got a lot of good ideas, but not everybody who has good ideas should run for president, and he just never gained the traction that he needed to stay in the race.
Yeah. Like you say, he hasn't endorsed any of the other candidates, but I would think he and Nikki Haley, both from South Carolina, I would think that his supporters probably might gravitate towards Nikki Haley. That's just a guess.
Well, I guess we'll find out if her support gets a bump from this.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, but remember, it's only about 2 or 3%.
Well,
maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe so.
He did raise a lot of money, though. His campaign did raise a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my understanding is that's why these candidates suspend their campaign. They don't end it because there are legal issues in terms of what you can do with that money if you end your campaign. If you suspend it, first of all, you can jump back in, if you want, so there may be something that he needs to do with that money that he can do if it's suspended rather than over.
Yeah, and did you see? Speaking of one of the candidates, Chris Christie went to Israel.
That's right. He's Israel, and stories this morning. He is wanted to go back see for himself. He's toured one of the kibbutz where the Hamas terrorists went in and just ransacked and massacred many people. He said he just wanted to see it for himself, just how bad it is.
Yeah.
He's another candidate that I like. I think he'd make a great attorney general. He's tough on crime.
Yeah. Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his. He was a U.S. attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Before he ran for governor of New Jersey. You got to remember, he's not as conservative as the other candidates. But it depends on what issue you're talking about. But
Right.
you remember, he won the governorship as a Republican in a liberal state,
New Jersey. Yeah.
New Jersey. So he's that's the reason he's probably not as conservative on a lot of issues
Right.
as maybe Republicans from a red state, for example. Now, President Trump had his thoughts on Chris Christie, which he shared over the weekend, and we're going to hear those now.
The latest morning consult poll has us far ahead. We're at 59%, and the others are at like 12. One is at 12. I think that's the sanctimonious, but he's rapidly being caught by Ramaswamy. Who's good? No, Christie's, he's eating right now. He can't be bothered. Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. That's very disrespectful. Don't call him. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do it. You can't do that. So now, because you're not allowed to do that, and therefore we're not going to do it, okay? We want to be very civil, right?
Keep going. Oh, that's all I got. Anyway, he went on to say he couldn't call him a fat pig, talking about Chris Christie. Is that helpful, Ed? You're laughing. Is it okay to laugh at fat people?
No, it's not. I got an extra 20 I need to shed. Some might say more than that. I'm not saying it, but some might say that. No, I've expressed my opinion about that. I'm very listen. I don't think it's helpful when the former president insults the men who are his opponents. I don't like Ron DeSanctimonious, the fat pig thing.
Bird brain.
But it really bothers me, politically speaking, when he called Nikki Haley bird brain. And here's why. She's a tough lady. I'm sure she would say, don't worry, I can take care of myself. I think it is more harmful to President Trump's chances if you start insulting women than men. With men, people go, I don't.
Fatty.
People
laugh at fatty.
People, I think most people go, that's boys being boys.
Yeah,
I don't think it's helpful.
It's 5-year-olds being 5-year-olds. Yeah.
But
what it is.
You start insulting women, you're going to lose women voters and independents. And maybe it's not a feminist take on things where they say she's a tough woman, she can take care of herself. But intuitively, people know it's not right for a man to insult a woman.
Yeah,
That's the way I was raised.
Ramaswamy got in trouble the other night at that debate in calling down Nikki Haley. What'd she say? She's Dick Cheney in 5-inch heels?
Yeah.
Something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And the crowd did not like that.
No.
But they love it when Trump does it.
Well, the Trump supporters, most do, I think.
Yeah.
But I did notice that during the debate when Ramaswamy that was rude. I thought it was rude when he insulted NBC. Okay.
Yeah.
Now some of our listeners are saying, you're soft on the lamestream media. No, they're corrupt. Okay, that's one of the things that Ramaswamy said. But when you're in someone's living room and someone is hosting you, you should say it in a different way. And the crowd clearly didn't like him insulting NBC, and especially
but I
when
think
he went
the whole
after
political
Republicans.
world's changing now.
Yeah.
After Trump, you can just because people laugh at fat jokes. People, you used to be told.
Mm-hmm.
We used to be told you don't make fun of people's physical appearance. Doesn't matter, male, female, whatever. That's it. That's beneath the office of the presidency or any office for that matter. In fact, your mama told you don't do that.
Yes, man, my mom told me you shouldn't make fun of people who are fat. They can't help it. Well, as I got older, I found out, no, you kind of can. Not everybody. Some people. That was what my mom told me. Now that our country has gotten larger, I think I've seen.
That was a good pun.
Listen, well, that wasn't a pun. I was saying not in numbers. Here, I have seen people in comment sections when people are talking about airlines.
Right.
I've seen people get really nasty towards larger people and say they need to buy 2 seats and all that. So the country has certainly is certainly coarser. We regularly hammer each other and insult each other in public spaces, like comment sections and radio call-in shows. But
yeah. All right. Go ahead, bird brain, Fred. If you're a male, it says go for it.
Well,
insults work.
I don't think it's politically wise to continue for the former president to continue insulting his opponents, but people don't think as harshly about it when it's guys insulting guys as they do when it's a guy insulting a woman. That's all I'm saying.
It's a double standard.
It is. It is a double standard, and one I'm glad for. We should treat women with more respect,
but not men.
Well, that it's an interesting time then to bring up about Joe Biden.
Yep.
His mental faculties certainly have been questioned in recent days, and when he stumbles up the stairs of Air Force One or stumbles on a stage, it's being noticed. And it is playing into the chemistry right now surrounding Joe Biden, both outside of his party and inside of his party. Should we really have, Democrats are saying, him at the top of the ticket? There's some polls, 70% of Democrats say they want somebody else at the top of their ticket next year. And David Axelrod, who was big in the Obama administration, he's been out there talking about Joe Biden and kind of questioning in public whether it is wise for Joe Biden to run again. Cut number 5.
But one number in the polling that was concerning, and in the CNN poll that followed after the New York Times poll, had to do with age. And that's one thing you can't reverse. And no matter how effective Joe Biden is behind the scenes, in front of the camera, what he's projecting is causing people concerns, and that's worrisome. And I think with Donald Trump on the other end, he can still win this election.
Here's my take. David Axelrod probably has daily phone calls with the former President Barack Obama.
Yeah.
A lot of people are basically saying Barack Obama does not want Joe Biden on the top of the ticket, because Barack Obama doesn't think Biden can win against Donald Trump. And I think he's using David Axelrod as a vehicle to say what Obama doesn't want to say in public himself.
Run it up the flagpole and see who salutes kind of thing.
So there's an article on Fox, and we're not going to quote it, but apparently Biden is noticing this criticism coming through David Axelrod, and I bet you he is suspicious of his former boss, Barack Obama. I think Biden is getting increasing pressure from inside his own party, from some of the people like Barack Obama who don't want him to run, and he's getting a little upset about that.
Wasn't the scuttlebutt when before 2020? As I recall, when Biden was thinking about running, I remember reading something, so this would be 2019, somebody said in private that President Barack Obama said to his vice president, "You don't have to do this, Joe." Tried to discourage him from running for president. Yeah. And I'm just trying to recall that. That's 5 years ago or so, 4 years ago. But if that was true then on the part of President Obama, that's certainly true now.
Yeah.
That he does not think that President Biden should be the standard bearer and probably thinks he can't win.
Well, Biden is also in trouble within his own constituency when we have these huge protests. I call them pro-Hamas protests. They call themselves pro-Palestinian. Those people, and there's an article out there today, they are the constituency of the Democratic Party. They are the green people. They are the Black Lives Matter people. These are people that the Democrats depend on to go out and vote. And they're now saying, for instance, up in Rashida Tlaib in Michigan, you've got 300,000 Arabs that in her constituency. They say, unless Biden backs off his support for Israel, they will not vote for him in 24.
Well, Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard professor and former attorney,
Who is liberal?
who's very liberal, he called out Obama.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was just last week, because President Obama in a speech said that Israel needs to end its occupation.
Use the word.
And Dershowitz said, I think he always had a deep hatred in his heart. He hit it very well.
Yep.
That's what Dershowitz said about Obama. So you wonder how much President Obama supports the Hamas version of things. I know all the quote-unquote conspiracy theories, but he was not friendly towards Israel, made Benjamin Netanyahu wait when he came to the White House. I mean, so Alan Dershowitz has apparently discovered and is now certain,
yes,
that what he suspected about Obama and his feelings towards Israel have now come to pass. So you have a split.
Yeah.
Dershowitz, liberal, Jewish, Democrat.
Yes.
Always been supportive of the Democratic Party. Now he looks at probably the most famous Democrat, some say behind the scenes running things still in the Democratic Party, is now his political enemy on that issue.
So Republicans cannot lose then by supporting Israel. They cannot lose because those, the Rashida Tlaib supporters were never going to vote Republican.
Right.
They'll stay home.
Yes.
That's what will happen with them. And that has the Democrats really concerned.
Right.
Because this is going to go one way or the other, what's happening in Israel and Gaza right now. Israel's going to stick to it, which I think Netanyahu has made it plain. Hamas has to be out of there forever.
Right.
And likely you're going to have Israel administering parts of Gaza before this is over, which the White House says it does not want. It's talking two-state solution, and as Israel supporters have said, there was a two-state solution on October 6th.
Yeah.
But that got blown out of the water the next day.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see what happens. The longer we go with Biden not saying he's not going to run, then, the harder it will be for the Democrats to come up with a plausible, viable candidate to run in his stead. It's not going to be Kamala Harris, vice president. She polls worse than Biden does. So that'd be an interesting conversation, wouldn't it, between Harris and Biden? You poll worse. No, you poll worse. No, you poll worse.
Yeah.
Where am I?
You can't do that cackle.
Yeah, please don't laugh like her.
I can't do it. Nobody. Yeah, but anyway, we'll see what happens there. But he is, when you're talking to somebody like in his condition, oftentimes they're obstinate. They get in a very defensive posture. They don't want to hear anything negative in their view. So they're not open to reason.
Right.
And especially if his wife, Jill Biden, says, "Go for it, honey." What? I said, "Go for it." You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If she says that because she wants to be first lady again.
Yeah.
For as long as she can. That's her interest, not really whether the country has a person who can handle.
Throw for it.
All right. So we will be back momentarily with more of today's issues on AFR. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Back many years ago, there were 12 men who shared a common bond. They joined themselves together for what they considered a great cause. It was, indeed, a revolutionary idea they had. It was also a revolutionary leader that they followed. With no weapon more powerful than a great cause, they set out to conquer the world. They carried no swords. They asked no material benefits. They expected to be scorned and ridiculed by the masses wherever they went. Yet from the very beginning they never swerved, never parted from that great cause to which they had pledged themselves. Lest we forget the impact of that cause upon those men, lest we forget what bound them together, lest we forget what was more powerful than the sword that they refused to carry, we need to remember what happened to those 12 men. One was named James. He was the brother of the leader of the 12. Another was also named James. He had a father who was named Zebedee. These two men carried the cause into the streets of the city where their group was meeting. Both men were met by angry mobs and were murdered because of their cause. Another man among the 12 was named Matthew. He had been a man of wealth prior to joining the cause and gave up financial security in order to become a member of the 12. He carried the cause to a little country called Ethiopia. There he was slain on a sword. He died for the cause. Philip was another of the 12. He came from a little city called Bethsaida, meaning the house of the fisher or the house of the hunter. He went fishing and hunting for men for the cause. He was hanged in Phrygia. Bartholomew was the unlikely name of another. Because of the cause, his skin was ripped from his body while he was still alive. Andrew, with his Greek name, was another of those pledged to the cause. He was crucified in Achaia. The cause deserved all he had. Thomas, often criticized for his doubts, left no doubt as to his loyalty to the cause. He carried it to East India, and there he was run through with a lance. Another was named Thaddeus. He was sometimes referred to as the other Judas. He gave it his all before he was shot to death with arrows. He was buried, legend says, in Beirut. There was Simon, a member of the Jewish Nationalistic Party, ready to die for his country against the hated Romans. Instead, he died for his cause. Like his leader, he was crucified. Persia was the place of death. Peter, perhaps the best known of the men, got as far as Rome with the cause. There he too was crucified. His request was to be crucified upside down. He did not consider himself worthy to die as his leader did. There was also Matthias, selected to fill the place of the one who betrayed the leader. He paid dearly for his decision to follow the cause. He was beheaded. The other of the men was named John. He was the brother of James, the son of Zebedee. He alone escaped death because of the cause. And still, someone says the Christian faith is free.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in hope of the glory of God.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed and Fred, and we hope you had a nice weekend. And we appreciate you listening to American Family Radio. What's your next story, Fred?
Well, we've all seen the big I call them pro-Hamas demonstrations in various parts of the world, including major cities here in the United States and unfortunately university campuses. But tomorrow in New York, there is a big pro-Israel rally that has been planned. This after Paris this weekend, 180,000 people out, pro-Israel people out. So we're seeing a swing in the pendulum there. And so I think that's rather positive, but it goes to what we were talking about, the split in the Democratic Party right now between supporting Israel and supporting the Palestinians. And there is some pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to come up with some kind of solution to the hostages that are being held, which is around 239, I think, at the moment. I saw an interview this morning with some parents who have their son was captured. They're hoping he is still alive. They're going to be part of this march tomorrow. But Netanyahu asked about the possibility in an NBC interview this weekend about the possibility of a hostage deal. This is what he had to say. Cut 3.
Let's talk about the hostages. There are reports that there is a possible deal that would involve getting out women and children and the elderly. How close are you to reaching a deal to get more of the hostages out?
Well, Kirsten, I can say that we weren't close at all until we started the ground operation. In fact, we heard that there's an impending deal of this kind or of that kind, and then we learned that it was all hokum. It was nothing. But the minute we started the ground operation, things began to change.
So is there a potential deal, Mr. Prime Minister? Is there a potential deal?
There could be, but I think the less I say about it, the more I'll increase the chances that it materializes. And it's a result of pressure, military pressure.
So what Netanyahu is saying is that the potential for a hostage deal depends on how much pressure that we put on Hamas. I think the flip side of that, what Netanyahu is saying, I'm not going to be pressured to pull back from what we are doing in order to get hostages freed. That's my assessment of what.
Well, and he can't do that because that will encourage hostage taking simultaneously with Hamas attacking Israel. Should Israel stop what it's doing and pull back and allow Hamas to regroup, Hamas will know we can save ourselves the next time we attack by making sure we have hostages. So now that would be terrifying if I had a family member who was a hostage. But I think for the sake of his country, Benjamin Netanyahu is doing the right thing. You can't make a deal. You can tell Hamas, you can accomplish X, Y, or Z if you release the hostages, but we're cleaning out Hamas from Gaza and Gaza City.
I just get the sense that Benjamin Netanyahu and the people of Israel are going to do what they're going to do to protect their country with this ground operation, and they're not going to be worried about so much about what the world says, because the world is going to condemn them anyway. They did even before, though. I mean, the anti-Semitism's been out there. You see the I don't even know. They need the support of the U.S. They do, and they do have, I think, overwhelmingly strong support throughout the United States, generally speaking. Despite these pro-Hamas rallies that you see going on, they would call them pro-Palestinian rallies, but they're really rallies where they believe from the river to the sea, drive the Jews out. They don't. So it's you can split hairs by saying they're pro-Palestinian but not pro-Hamas, but they're synonymous, Hamas and the Palestinian cause in Gaza.
Yes,
in Gaza. So we'll see what happens there, but it seems to me Israel's taking the approach, listen, we got to do what we got to do, or else we're not even going to be here.
Yep.
We can't live with Hamas firing rockets at us at will. And we got the Iron Dome, which takes down 95% to 98% of the rockets, but still, we can't live like this. And with the idea that they may come over and try to butcher our citizens again.
And I would think that the anti-Semitism that we have seen worldwide, including on many U.S. college and university campuses, has probably strengthened the resolve of the Israeli people. For what you're saying, they look around and they say, this anti-Semitism is not a fluke. We have got to take care of ourselves and not rely on any of these countries where a large percentage of their people hate our guts. So we've got to do what we've got to do. I think that strengthens their resolve to get this job done.
And if we get criticized, we get criticized, but we got to. It's a death match.
Yeah,
it's us or them. Mm-hmm. That's the approach that they're having to take. So every move Israel makes now, they've been calling for a ceasefire before it even started, before the ground operation even started. I mean the left and the Muslim world, and almost the whole world, been calling for a ceasefire before Israel even had a chance to respond. So they don't want Israel to defend themselves. They don't want to. These people don't want Israel to clean out Gaza because they hate Jews just because, and doesn't matter. You can tell them that they slaughtered the Jews in Israel, and Israel's responding. They're defending themselves. They're going to hunt these people down who did this, and people are going to those people who defend Gaza and the Palestinians over there are going to say, I don't care. They don't have a right to do anything because innocent people are dying in Gaza. Yeah. Well, I don't even know if they would say innocent people because they believe Hamas is innocent.
Yeah, they're just like the president of Turkey. Erdogan said they're freedom fighters.
Right. So next story, Fred.
Well, somewhat related. Israel lives with this terror threat, has lived with this terrorist threat for a long time. Well, last week, FBI Director Christopher Wray, without saying our border is a big problem, he did admit that the terrorist threat has grown in this country in recent years. No question about it. Congressman Mike Turner, he's Republican from Ohio, is commenting on that. Cut number 6.
He cited the southern border, indicating that there are people in the United States who've crossed the southern border who pose a risk to our country, people who are allied with international terrorist groups and organizations who both as groups could be planning terrorist attacks.
Yeah, could be planning terrorist attacks. This threat is growing. We know. We get the numbers from the Border Patrol people. Over 200, I think, on the terrorist watch list. And then they know there are a bunch of what they call gotaways that are now living in our country. And why should we be surprised? I mean, we know there are people coming in from Yemen. We know there are people coming in from Iran. We know there are people coming in from Syria. We've got numbers that they're aware of coming from those, what I would call terrorist sympathetic countries that are coming into our country now.
And many young men from China. It's not the same issue as the potential for terrorist cells already present, but also setting up since the Hamas attack on Israel.
Nobody wishes a terrorist attack on our turf here, but I think we can say the potential for it, as Christopher Wray, FBI Director, as Christopher Wray is saying, the potential for it has grown since Joe Biden became president.
Because of that open border. This is when we look to the rank and file members of the FBI. We talk about those at the top. We feel like have weaponized the agency itself. Talking about Mark Houck, for example, the pro-life protester who's now suing the Biden administration and the FBI. But the rank and file FBI members that we always talk about, who probably most of them do not like the weaponization for political purposes of the FBI. This is when we hope that they are doing their job in keeping America safe and tracking down the potential for these terrorist cells. If they exist, Christopher Wray seems to indicate that that's likely. I think that's what he's saying.
Absolutely. Well, we also, speaking of the border, we know that millions have crossed the border since Joe Biden became president and basically advocated for an open border policy. And they've come, they said, seeking asylum because they think, America is where my dreams will be realized. Well, some of them who have moved north to places like Chicago and New York, some of them are having their first experience with winter weather. I don't know if you've seen the videos. People living in tents, some of these folks are living in tents on sidewalks outside police stations in Chicago, snowing, all right?
Right.
So in New York on the weekend, because they've had well over 100,000, I think, of folks coming up from the border who have arrived in New York, sanctuary city, come one, come all.
Yeah.
Well, they're running out of space for them in their hotels and everything. So on the weekend, they set up tents. The city of New York set up tents on an abandoned runway in Brooklyn. And they were going to move a bunch of folks from Venezuela to there. And some of these Venezuelans now are going public saying, we want to go home.
Yeah.
It isn't working out for us, especially this winter stuff and living in tents. We really don't want this.
Well, and they have said there's nothing here for us. There's nothing for them to do. I'm assuming that some of these individuals who have come up from Latin America are looking, for opportunity to work and make a living. And if there are no jobs available, plus some of the funds are running out in terms of welfare, and they are recognizing just how cold it can get north of the Rio Grande, especially when you make it up to Chicago and New York. So I don't blame them for going, this is a bad idea. We're going home.
And the question is, who's going to fly them home? Taxpayers of America?
I don't know.
They're going to have to make the long trek.
I knew this. I knew this was coming back in August. I said winter's coming, and you're going to have these folks who are used to milder, warmer climates, and don't have any homes really. But they chose to do it.
Yeah.
I think they thought, by they I mean these illegal immigrants who are here by the millions. They thought when Biden said y'all come, that they were going to be provided work permits and living places to live. Now, these sanctuary cities are giving as many people as possible hotel rooms and such. But now there's such an overflow, they're having to live in tents. And, you sit around in a tent and walk around the street, and you can't get a job. And it starts getting cold and your family's there. You're thinking, I just need to go home, even though it was so bad they left for the U.S.
Right.
But if they can't work here, well, a lot of them are working underground illegally now. That will happen. We've seen that happening in New York. But to be illegal and get work permits and so forth, it's just not happening for them right now. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But the cold weather, you can't live in that. You can't live on the street in a tent.
No.
In Chicago, you'll die.
Right.
Huh? And so anyway.
And I don't think the American people are going to put up with more. These states like New York and Illinois are asking for billions of dollars more in federal money. Well, the American people just aren't going to put up with that.
Right.
They're just saying, no more taxpayers' money for this sort of thing. So, liberalism is something that looks good on paper sometimes.
Right.
But then
until you run out of other people's money.
Yes. But then reality hits, and that's what's happening at these sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
I
think that was a Margaret Thatcher quote.
Yeah.
I think socialism looks good until you run out of other people's money, something like that.
They are cleaning up in San Francisco, by the way, the tent cities on the sidewalks. But the reason for that is that the APEC meeting, which includes the likes of Chinese leader Xi, they're meeting in San Francisco this week. They've been showing some before and afters, like before on the streets, like the basically open sewers and tents. And the city has been going around with big hoses and cleaning up because they want San Francisco to look good for the Chinese. Some people would say, why? But that's what's happening on the streets of San Francisco all of a sudden.
Well,
Streets of San Francisco.
That's a good show name.
Yeah, with who is that? Carl
Is that
Malden?
Carl Malden?
Yeah.
Streets of San Francisco. Oh, how the streets
Starsky
have
and
changed.
Hutch was based out of there too.
Is that right?
The Starsky and Hutch, they were set in. Their setting was San Francisco.
Well, you certainly don't want the communist Chinese using a major U.S. city for propaganda purposes, which is what they would do.
Sure.
They'll take video of the president of China's visit, and if you've got homeless people and drug addicts all over the street, you sell that to your people and to others and say, look, this is what capitalism does. So it's ridiculous that they're cleaning it up for President Xi Jinping.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'll be surprised if he's not carjacked, though.
Oh, I think that's a good way, actually, to get rid of a good percentage of the carjackers in one day. You try to carjack the Chinese, when they're equivalent of the Secret Service, there'd be dead carjackers, I think.
There is, in all seriousness, I'm reading every day the people in California, in these big cities in particular, they're open game. I mean, it's open season on citizens. There's nobody protecting them. If they are, you have to have a gun yourself.
Yes.
You have to know how to use it.
Did you see the video of the guy coming home from the gym?
Yeah.
Into a gated community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple of guys, I think, jumped over the fence.
Yeah.
Stuck a gun in his back. He had a gun on him with a permit. And they exchanged fire.
Yeah.
In a gated community.
Yes.
Gunfire. Not like
that's
in
what
the
I'm
city
saying.
of Chicago.
This is happening every day, and they're having trouble keeping cops. They're losing cops. Talking about Los Angeles, San Francisco, some other places there. People are leaving by the thousands, hundreds of thousands every year, leaving California to go somewhere else, go to another state, go to even Nevada or Arizona or Florida or Texas or somewhere else. Colorado, they're not staying. People are getting out. If they can, if they have the means to get out, they're getting out.
Yes.
Again, I am separating the large liberal cities from the rural California life, which a lot of them, but still the taxation and the regulation on even the people who live in the rural parts of California is taking its toll.
And if you send your kids to a public school anywhere in California,
Got
you're going to
it.
subject your kids to the nuttiness that is California education.
Yeah.
Which, just to go back to what we were talking about, let's say that Joe Biden decides that he's not going to run. And everybody talks about Gavin Newsom, who just got back from China. Gee, he's not interested in running. How do you think the rest of the country would react to having a guy from California with the left-wing policies that he has? What chance would he have nationally to win?
By the way, his polling numbers in California are really bad.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that the other day. So I was thinking to myself, he's probably not the best candidate if Biden fails to put the governor of California up right now, because he has nothing good going on that he can cite for his state. Listen, I don't know who would be the answer for the Democrats. This is just Tim talking. I'm thinking somebody like Gretchen. What's her last name? Whitmer up in Michigan. Governor lockdown. She is about the right age to run for president. Okay, I disagree with everything she does from the moment she gets up in the morning. If she orders her eggs,
You don't even like the coffee she drinks.
I don't even like the coffee she drinks. I don't wish any harm on her.
Right.
It's just her politics I totally reject. Talking about Whitmer. But if you want to stand back and say what's a good choice for the Democrats, I think she would be a good choice because she's pretty well known. She can win Michigan and probably help win some of the other industrial, I call them Big Ten states. I mean, the Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So she's, she's viewed favorably by Democrats all over the country. So I think somebody like her would be a much more formidable candidate than Gavin Newsom in California.
I agree, and the reason that you're citing about Gavin Newsom, if you find a candidate who could replace Joe Biden, a Democratic candidate, you automatically are taking the voters' attention off the Biden economy and all the other things for which voters are going to blame Biden. But if you replace him with someone like Gavin Newsom, now you've got attention on a state that's also ridiculously suffering. So the option
It's a progressive failure
Yes.
state is what it is.
So the option is to go with somebody who takes the attention off Biden.
Right.
And then if they have any sort of success story in their state, as a governor especially, then you are going to make the election about the Republican candidate, not the Democratic candidate.
What about Joe Manchin?
Now, the people may not have known this. Was it Friday? He said, I'm dropping out of the Senate race.
He did.
Not running for re-election.
Now, he was trailing, am I right? He was going to be beat.
Yes.
I think everybody pretty well conceded he was going to be beat in November.
Yes. Yeah, by the former governor who's running against him.
He was a yellow dog Democrat just holding on.
He was.
And he was going to be beat by the Republican candidate in November. I think so he drops out. So he doesn't have to suffer that.
Right.
But is he making waves about potentially running for president himself?
Well,
and on what party ticket would he run?
Well, in his announcement, he said he plans to travel the country because he believes there's a large swath of the nation that's in the middle between.
They don't want Trump or Biden, either one.
That's right. And so when he said that, everybody started talking about what, third party run?
I think that's where the RFK vote might go, though.
The no labels.
Didn't you say RFK is polling at 20%? Is that true?
That's the story I saw on CNN.
Are you sticking to it?
It says there's a Time Siena poll out that shows that RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is polling. This is a Quinnipiac University poll. Kennedy hit 22% among registered voters, which is high. It's not. There have been some other.
That was one poll. Is that right? I mean, just to be clear,
that's just one poll. There have been a couple of other polls. Ross Perot in 1992, I think he hit 21%. George Wallace in 1968 hit around 20%. Now, both Perot and Wallace, when people went into the voting booth, their support dropped quite a bit. But so nobody knows where RFK Jr. would play out if he continues to poll well.
But Manchin, where would Manchin?
But Manchin, I don't think Manchin runs as an independent. I think he runs if in the next couple of months or whatever, Joe Biden drops out. Or maybe he throws his hat into the ring if there's an open convention. I don't think Manchin would run as an independent.
He got no shot, Ed, on the Democrat side. No shot, zero.
Yeah.
So he's 180 degrees to Joe Biden.
That's the reason he's dropping out
on climate change.
But I think maybe this is what he would say in running as an independent. But this idea that he's going to try to find a middle ground. He could conceivably say, I'm sticking to the Democratic Party, and I am going to call independents and the Democrats that are true liberals to support my candidacy, and then you see what you can swing once you get to the convention. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's well known enough around the country to be a prime Democratic Party candidate.
Well, you also have got to, it's getting kind of late in the ball game here to start putting together an apparatus to run for president.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
As an independent, that's why, I'm sure Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's going to run as an independent, but you don't just say, I'm going to run as an independent. You got to get on the ballot.
Right.
On all these states, you got to have the money. It's a lot of work.
You got to have a ground game.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work to run an independent, even as wealthy and as, as organized and as well known as Ross Perot was.
Right.
He had a hard time pulling that off. In fact, if I remember correctly, there were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 states where he wasn't even on the ballot.
Right.
This is when he ran against
H.W.
Was it Clinton
and
H.W. Bush?
And, Bill Clinton in 92.
And then he ran a second time. He didn't get as high a number.
Then he dropped out. Remember?
Larry?
He said they were making threats against his family.
Remember talking to Larry King, Ross Perot? Larry?
A big sucking sound. Our job's going south.
All right, we'll be back in a minute. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Chatting,
laughing,
blogging, hashing it out,
expression.
Let's talk. The Stand, a blog for religious freedom, to promote Christian values and to expose attacks on the American family. The Stand is a wall of defense and a beacon of light to those in danger. Lift your voice. Visit afa.net/The Stand. That's afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. Secret Service agents protecting the president's granddaughter opened fire on suspects attempting to break into a vehicle. Fox's Jared Halpern has more from the White House.
Just before midnight last night, a Secret Service agent fired his service weapon on individuals attempting to break into a parked, unmarked agency vehicle. A spokesman for the Secret Service says it is believed no one was hit and the suspects immediately fled in a red vehicle. The agents were in the Georgetown neighborhood where President Biden's granddaughter Naomi lives. Officers saw 3 people breaking the window of a parked, unoccupied SUV. The Secret Service put out a regional bulletin to D.C. police. Washington has seen a significant increase in the number of carjackings and vehicle thefts this year.
Police in Texas continue to investigate a shooting at a flea market. It happened in Pearland, about 17 miles south of Houston. At least 1 person is dead, 4 injured. The person that died was a child. Cleanup is underway in Cleveland, where a Jewish cemetery was vandalized. Here's Fox's Jeff Manasso.
The Jewish Federation of Cleveland calling it sickening that anyone would have so much hate for the Jewish people, that they would desecrate a Jewish cemetery on the city's west side where headstones have been spray painted with red swastikas. The vandalism amid increased hostility toward the Jewish people, not seen in generations amid the Israel-Hamas war. As police investigate, the Jewish Federation saying it will restore dignity to the damaged grave sites and continue to combat hate against all communities with an unbending resolve.
Ohio lawmakers are implementing a strategy in light of last Tuesday's election on the abortion issue. Charlie Butts has this story.
Issue 1 amended the Ohio Constitution, and that's being interpreted as legalizing abortion up to birth. But the majority pro-life legislature plans to deal with it. Janet Porter of Faith to Action tells AFN the approach of the first bill.
Removing jurisdiction from the courts so that they can't misapply issue 1 for the benefit of the abortion industry. Because the lawmakers are the lawmaking body. They're the ones who are the ones not only that make the laws, but they're the ones who grant jurisdiction to the courts to whether or not they can rule on something.
The amendment is so vague it could be misapplied by the courts. Porter says removing jurisdiction has been done before.
It happened in Congress. Remember when Democratic Liberal Majority Leader Tom Daschle, he actually withdrew jurisdiction from the courts to rule on brush fire in North Dakota. I think babies are at least as important as brush fire in North Dakota.
The legislature will act for another reason, and that is the millions of dollars in outside money spent to influence the election.
You know what? Our inalienable rights are not up for grabs for the ones with the most money. Our children are not for sale to the highest bidder. And that's the message the legislature is sending in a unified way.
I'm Charlie Butts.
The Republican National Committee has backed away from a threat to bar candidates from a December debate if they appear in a Christian group's upcoming forum. The Iowa family leader has a Thanksgiving family forum scheduled for later this week. Now, the RNC initially said the event would be an unsanctioned debate, and anyone appearing could not be in the December debate that will take place in Alabama. The president of Iowa Family Leader says the 2 sides worked out a deal to allow candidates to attend with no repercussions. In final news, Amazon says the initial testing of its internet service satellites are promising. Fox reporter Evan Brown.
We've told you about the marvels of Elon Musk's Starlink, the SpaceX project to fill the sky with satellites that can deliver high-speed internet service to anywhere on the planet. But Musk now has competition in the space-based internet space. Jeff Bezos of Amazon fame has launched his first round of test satellites for Project Kuiper, named after the ring of objects beyond the solar system. Amazon reports the satellites are controlling their orbit and working just as designed. Some operational satellites could begin testing the service next year.
And that's all our time for now. Find more news on afn.net. When you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free daily email news briefs. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on X. Thanks for listening.
AFR programming is now available on Alexa.
You're joking, right?
Nope, not joking.
Seriously?
Yep, this is not a drill.
Wait a minute. No way.
There's a way, the Alexa way. So if you just happen to miss your favorite shows, no worries. You can now listen to each podcast with Alexa. It's simple and it's free. Just visit afr.net/apps and click Alexa. We're not joking. Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Battagliano. And Ed, you got a message before?
I do have.
I'll just say hello to Steve Paisley Jordahl. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really curious as to what Ed has to say.
Ed?
Yes, everyone, with waiting with bated breath. No,
Is that
folks,
a good thing?
It is a good thing. So now through November 20th is Operation Christmas Child. If you're listening to American Family Radio on a regular basis, and if you're not, why not? You should be listening to AFR. You'll learn a lot. Here's one of the things you'll hear a lot through the 20th of November, Operation Christmas Child. Yes, it's that time again. Pack your shoebox now with any standard size shoebox and drop it off during the third week of November. That is this week, folks. Shoeboxes will be collected across the country at more than 4,500 drop-off locations. And you know what these are used for in hard-to-reach areas in more than 100 unreached people groups. These gift boxes are opening doors for evangelism and follow-up discipleship. That's what the church is all about. AFR, American Family Radio, fully supports Operation Christmas Child. If you want to find out how to do this, what you pack into your shoe boxes, how big the shoebox can be, all those kinds of questions, have answers at SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. That's SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. Check out that website to learn more and to find a drop-off location near you. A lot of churches are doing that for you. You take your packed shoebox to church, and then they will make sure those get delivered. So just visit SamaritansPurse.org/OCC to learn more.
Have you done yours yet?
I have not. Kind of what we were talking about earlier. My wife's got, I've assigned that task to her.
Talking about
delegated.
Samaritan's Purse shoeboxes.
Yeah.
You're going to play a supportive role.
That's what I do about everything.
Right.
Supportive role.
You're the win.
I'm really
Beneath
I'm
her
really a
wings.
very important cog at our home. I fully support all my wife's activities when it comes to
It's
this
a
kind of
true 90-10 relationship.
Yeah.
I am taking charge in my home for the shoebox. I'm sending my Operation Christmas Child a pair of shoes because I'm lazy like that.
You're going to send a pair of shoes in the shoebox?
Yeah.
Just go to the store and get them some shoes.
That's right. Send the
Wrap
box.
it up.
That's it.
Don't even have to worry about
That's it.
toothbrushes or measurements or.
Gotta have shoes. You gotta have shoes.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right,
not really, but whatever you say.
Steve, what's your first story?
All right. Do you guys remember talking about the Pennsylvania gentleman named Mark Houck, Catholic pro-lifer, who was standing in front of an abortion clinic in rural Pennsylvania, and an old pro-abortion protester or clinic escort or whatever it was comes up and starts harassing his son. I believe he even tries to shove his son or gets right in his face. Well, Dad walks over, pushes the guy back away from his son, shoves him, and the guy calls the police and everything. Police come and they say, nothing here. Go home. Everybody go home. Well, and then you remember a while later, the FBI charges him with a violation of the FACE Act, which is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. And he said, okay, I'll go. Just let me know when you want me to come in. I've got a lawyer. We'll come in and I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Well, they show up at his house.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. in front of his kids, guns loaded and locked, aimed right at him.
Like SWAT team.
It was SWAT team.
Yeah.
It was FBI SWAT. But they terrify his family. They frog march him out, frog march him into the holding place. A little while later, he is absolutely absolved of any crime. Now he is suing the Department of Justice.
Good.
So he is suing them despite his efforts to cooperate with their investigation. He says his prosecution was malicious and intended to accomplish an illicit, corrupt purpose not in the interest of justice. Quote, government agents opted for excessive and overwhelming force that resulted in unnecessary danger and fear. This is from the filing. How can his wife and his children continue to suffer post-traumatic stress, economic loss? They have had 3 miscarriages, and in fact, they have now been ruled to be infertile because of the stress.
Wow.
And so he's asking for $4.35 million in damages. He is being represented by a pro-life firm, as well as 40 Days for Life have jumped into this because he's a representative of them as well.
I think he wins this one. It is clear to any honest observer that what the Justice Department did and what the FBI did in this case was to send a message to pro-life people. We will come in to your home. We will scare everyone in that home. We'll threaten you with weapons for nothing. I mean,
they want to send a message.
Well, I mean, yeah, what I'm saying is for no actual crime.
Right.
Because Mark Houck, not only did the local prosecutors not charge him, this individual, the abortion escort, I think did a civil lawsuit against him. That was tossed. And so after all that, the federal government says it needs to get involved.
Yeah.
And I think he wins this. I think this is a pretty easy decision. You never know nowadays in terms of where that this would be arbitrated, what court.
Will
but I think he wins it.
Will it make a difference?
No, not to ideologues in the Justice Department. And here's another thing. It doesn't cost them anything. I'm talking about the individuals who perpetrated this abuse of power, and that's what I believe it is. It's an absolute abuse of power. Those individuals don't suffer anything. It's the taxpayer funds the money that will go to Mark Houck and his family. And these people won't lose their jobs in the Justice Department. There's no price that has to be paid for abusing your power and authority when you work in the federal government. And they'll continue to do it because it doesn't cost them a dime.
Interesting, a little tidbit in the filing against the DOJ. They say that Mark Houck is also a reproductive rights worker in his capacity as a volunteer at the Community Women's Center of America Pregnancy Center. And the FACE Act applies to there, too. So he is protected by the FACE Act as well. Never heard them called reproductive rights, but yeah.
The FACE Act, if I'm not mistaken, was passed in the 1990s, signed into law, I think, by Bill Clinton. But it was meant as a response to pro-lifers who would chain themselves to the front door of an abortion clinic so that nobody could go in and out. And whatever you think of that tactic, I think that was the intent of the FACE Act. It wasn't to govern someone down the sidewalk like Mark Houck was, getting into a scuffle with someone who was verbally abusing his son. Mark Houck was not barring anyone from going into the abortion clinic.
It was not.
But when you're facing the federal government with all its money, all its attorneys, prosecutors, all its power and authority, a lot of times people won't tangle with the federal government. And that's the whole point. We're going to send a message. You want to go down and try to talk women out of having an abortion? You better think twice. We'll slap you with the FACE Act violation.
Yep.
Anyway.
You guys recall just over the weekend, there were massive pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protests. I think you guys were talking a little bit about that the first hour. Well, I want to let you hear a little quote. One of the leaders was making a speech. I want you to hear what he had to say at this pro-Palestinian rally. This is cut 11.
We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah.
We don't need to play that.
Well, the reason
I understand these are members of a false religion, and
but my question is, he wants it to get to every house. What are the odds you think that they want to go knocking on doors and handing out pamphlets?
You're talking about they prefer to use fear and intimidation?
Or force.
Well, that's how Islam spread. That's the way it is, a religion of the sword.
Just put y'all on notice, folks.
And that is, and listen, for these countries, America is not in as difficult a situation as countries in Europe. There are pockets in the United States and places like around the Detroit area and others. Okay, but in Western countries that have allowed a lot of immigration from North Africa and the Middle East, they're in trouble because they have enough Muslims in some of those countries that can go door to door and use threats and intimidation.
10% of France are Muslim now.
And they're not in rural areas. They congregate in cities.
Did you see the London Bridge?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't the actual London Bridge. It was a bridge in London, very famous place. 100,000 Muslims gathering over the weekend to protest Israel's actions in Gaza. So
if you're a mayor of a city, of course, the mayor of London is a Muslim.
Right.
If you're a mayor of a large city in Western Europe and you see that in terms of 100,000 people, you want to tangle with that by sending the cops in? They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And you see them also, by the way. I see them all the time. They'll hold up and take up an entire street and do their call to prayer, faces to the ground, okay, praying. That is a well-known spiritual manifestation of Muslims saying this city belongs to their God. And so, listen, Western Europe is going to be on fire.
That's why it's not about land necessarily. I mean, it is in part. I'm talking about in Israel. But the land that Hamas wants, which is what this guy was talking about, basically, which is a broader Islam needs to conquer the world ideology that we heard just a few minutes ago. It's the same one Gaza that the Hamas has.
Yeah.
For the reasons you've mentioned here and the historical reasons, Islam wants to take over. Well, they really need to conquer the world.
Yeah.
If they're going to be true to their mission, and it's not a conquer the world like Christians think of it. And in our religion, our religion is one, and I use religion in it's a belief in God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the broadest sense.
Christianity is a relationship with Christ.
Right.
I understand that, but I'm talking about in the broader sense. The Christian religion, as it were, is spread not by the sword, but by persuasion and witness and acts, ACTS, of charity.
Right.
That's the way Christianity has always been spread, whereas Islam is more a religion of fear. And if you don't accept Allah, I would cut your hand off.
Right.
You want to accept him now? I mean, it's not so much a religion. It's not a religion of let's come down and reason. It's a religion of Allah, like this guy said. There is no God but Allah, and we're supposed to take over the world.
Yeah.
By force, if necessary.
Yep.
All right, next story, Steve.
All right, got any lawyers who need some work out there? Because the federal government is looking for some lawyers. The Justice Department, they posted an ad looking for 8 attorneys because they need to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases. There's been what they are calling a little notice lawsuit filed in Louisiana last month. 6 vaccine-injured plaintiffs against the federal government saying that the vaccines caused their immune systems or their heart damage or Guillain-Barré syndrome, or maybe they had a relative that died, and they say it's because of the vaccine, and so they're suing the government.
Yes. This is a very interesting column by Miranda Devine of the New York Post. She's a well-respected journalist. She breaks a lot of stories, investigative journalist and so forth. And so you need to go read this. This is what Steve's talking about. We just posted on our Today's Issues Facebook page. So you can get it from there. It's New York Post, Miranda Devine. Anyway, this is not yet getting any big national news coverage, but I suspect that it will. Correct me now if I remember. I read the article last night, but it's probably going to become a class
action suit. It does have that
feel to it. Where what it is, it's going to be people who were injured by the COVID vaccine shots are going to sue the federal government because the federal government mandated that people take the experimental shots or else lose their jobs.
Right. And I think the lawsuit is also intended to overturn the legal immunity that the pharmaceutical companies have.
That's the purpose of the lawsuit, and the Miranda Devine says they're unlikely to get any money from the pharmacy companies. However, she says 40 years ago, Congress passed a law that says that people who are harmed by drug companies, because the immunity that they get wasn't just for COVID shots, they've had this for a while, that Congress has found a scheme to get those people money, taxpayer money, but to get them remunerated. And so I think they're trying to tap into that as well. She does. Okay. She thinks that.
Yeah, that's going to be, of course, the drug companies, namely Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, they were the major big three, at least for the North America.
Yes.
That developed the COVID vaccine shots. Because they rushed through the normal process of creating a vaccine and vetting and so forth and testing, they were granted immunity from lawsuits. I don't know, how can you do that? Who has the authority to do that? The FDA?
No, my understanding is that President Reagan, this may go back to 1986. It's been a while since I've talked about COVID-related stuff, but that President Reagan signed into law, I think all vaccines approved for use by the FDA are exempt from lawsuits. That's why when Steve was talking about this countermeasure, this injury compensation program, that's why the federal government has set up this fund to compensate people. So I don't think it's just the COVID vaccines. I think all vaccines, this is something that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talks about when he criticizes the way we handle vaccines in this country. So you
know what? If you were to tell a big pharmaceutical company you can create one thing goes wrong with one person and they're going to be sued, they may not be interested in creating such a vaccine.
Well, and I think that's why Reagan signed into law this bill that protects the manufacturers of vaccines, is because these companies said, we're not going to invest a lot of money in it if we're going to get sued into oblivion You want us to do the research and development, you got to protect us. And I think that was the thinking.
Yeah, I understand both sides of that argument. But
right.
On the other hand, if you have a drug that has been created and especially an experimental operation,
Warp speed
is what it was called, that kind of drug, and you just putting that out there for the public, and then you're saying, but if it doesn't work or if it causes harm, you can't hold the drug companies responsible for it.
And on the other hand, the drug companies say, well, we're not interested in doing Operation Warp Speed if we're liable.
Yeah, no, I understand both sides. I don't blame them. Yeah. I don't blame the companies and their lawyers for demanding that they are not going to be sued.
So the federal government, though, they play the role of forcing many people to take the vaccine.
Yeah.
That
was the problem right there. They forced.
Yeah.
People were forced by even our soldiers.
Military.
People
working in the federal government. The HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, passes down instructions to hospitals. Listen, the federal government mandates, the mask mandates, for example, when I had to sign up for Social Security, when I turned 65 and Medicare, this is just like last year, okay? We're well past COVID, so 2022, and every time I had been to the Social Security office since then, you still had to wear a mask. I walked in, I said, well, we're still wearing masks here? Yep, federal government mandate. So these kinds of mandates also went to employees being forced, colleges and universities, even private hospitals, all following the government mandates and the government instructions. So all these people wound up having to get the vaccine.
Yep.
I will add just one other thing, Steve, to this story. What will be very interesting is if this lawsuit continues on and isn't squelched by some judge. Be very interesting to see the discovery that takes place. Yeah. Because the attorneys for these people who are suing, they're going to want emails. They're going to want, private correspondences. They're going to want records.
I think it's in that story we're talking about by Miranda Devine, the New York Post. 2% or less than 2% of the American public has taken the latest COVID booster.
Yeah. No, it's not popular at least.
Yeah.
And I think people are suspicious of it at this point.
Yeah, and the COVID is nothing more than a cold or flu. It's not killing people.
Right.
As much.
It's not going to your lungs like it was early on. Yep. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. Hey, why don't we end up with some of the, we've mistrusted our mainstream media for a while now. And our dispenser of truth at the Babylon Bee has come up with how NBC News covered some stories. I wanted to read these to you. This is the headline from NBC News. Passengers aboard the Titanic actually accidentally drink a little too much water.
I don't get it.
Okay. This is the headline on the Titanic disaster from NBC.
Oh.
Yeah.
Citizens of Pompeii experience sudden heat wave.
Probably due to climate change.
Abraham Lincoln dies after hitting his head on a bullet.
In other words, this is the kind of bias
that
you get with the mainstream
Millions
media.
of Soviet Union residents receive free housing and work opportunities in Siberia.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a Babylon Bee. They always got something. They're clever.
Their wheels are always turning over there, aren't they?
All right, thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
My thanks to Fred and Ed and Brent Creeley, our producer. I think that's everybody. I think we didn't have any guests, so that's it. All right.
That's all the people we have to thank.
Yes.
That's
very short list.
Yeah.
And we will hope you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Keep listening to AFR. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association.